Well,
seaweed-based feed to reduce methane emissions in cows.
It's just like, okay, how many levels of scam do you have to be on to be able to sell people pills to make their cows fart less?
I got a better idea. We should make helmets for cows. They go over their heads, and they have a pipe that goes down right in front of their mouth, but at a good distance away, and their butts. And there is a fire. So when they burp, it goes, and now the cows are breathing fire.
That would actually be really cool.
Could you imagine you're driving down the road and you see a bunch of cows and the cow looks at you and goes, and fire goes.
We just have to find a way to harness the power of that methane.
Yeah. So you know what I was saying is we should get a big dome and put it over the cow pasture so all the methane gets sucked up and then we use it to warm our homes.
That's a really good idea.
Do you think the pendulum's swinging back, Tim?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the Bud Light effect is Bud Light was the catalyst, and now we see the Bud Light effect. All these companies panicking over potentially getting boycott. You know, Netflix lost millions of subscribers.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't just Bud Light. This stuff is happening. I think, look, someone like me, right? Grew up in Chicago, moderately liberal individual, traditional, socially liberal person. I see a pride parade. I go, whatever. I see pride flags and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I have friends who wave the pride flag, and I'm like, good for you. I'm glad you're happy, man. Congratulations. I'm fairly liberal in the traditional sense on issues of gay marriage and families and all of that stuff. And I've had arguments with conservatives on these issues. And we get along, but we disagree. Then all of a sudden, I start seeing them send books like Genderqueer to kids, which have overt sex acts in them, from an author who outright says in the book that she is sexually aroused at the thought of being a man, and then wants children to affirm her as a man. I'm like, I'm putting two and two together here. Yeah, they're grooming kids, right? Now all of a sudden I'm like, hey, can we not do this? And what happens? They attack me. They call me a conservative. So this is the point where people like me, who are traditionally liberal, are now hanging out with conservatives. And the simple way to put it is this: I am beset on both sides by activists. On the right, there is a man saying, I think abortion is wrong. Life begins at conception, and we should not be killing these babies. And I say, okay, well, there's a lot of challenging questions there around the rights of two individuals now who are sharing one body and how we deal with that. But I hear your argument, right? Then I look to my left and they say, anyone for any reason at any time should be allowed to abort the baby, even if the baby can survive. And I say, that has no logic and makes literally no sense in any capacity. If the baby must be delivered from the woman, no matter what, why kill the baby? They made this argument about, like, what if the baby's stillborn? Well, it's not an abortion then, if the baby's already dead. Well, what if the mother's health is in jeopardy? I agree. The baby must be removed. I'm sorry. Right. If the baby would survive, abortion is specifically defined by the federal government and Planned Parenthood as ending the life of that baby. So what ends up happening is a person like me who has traditionally been pro-choice says, if the only options you're giving me is we ban abortion outright or we allow babies gestated at 9 months to be killed, I'm going to vote for the guy who's banning abortion. Because I'm like, it may not fit my worldview perfectly, but man, that's graphic and psychotic. And they're doing it in so many states. Now we come to the question of child sex changes. Look, you take a look at what's going on in Europe. You take a look at Finland, and you know better than I do. They are shutting this stuff down. The research isn't backing it up. And so I say, okay, well, the best assumption I can make is clearly this doesn't make sense. It's not working. And you look at desistance rates. These studies that we've said in the show several times show, 65 to 95% of children desist and live happy, normal lives.
So there's an important thing about that statistic. This is based off all the studies up until about 2004, before they started giving kids puberty blockers. Mm-hmm. So these studies, and there's about 12 academic ones that have been done, all point to, over 80% on average of these kids desisted. But this is when 1 out of 30,000 were affected.
And they'd go through puberty.
And they'd go through puberty. Puberty itself was the cure.
Yep.
Now we're blocking the cure. But this is real gender dysphoria. This affected mostly boys, not girls. Most grew up to be gay. What we're seeing today, totally different. Mostly adolescent girls. They're all going to grow up to be fun.
So here's my point.
Yeah.
Well, not if they carve them up first, though, right?
Whatever argument the left wants to make about their views on these issues, something maybe I could potentially agree with. Let's say they're like, we want to tax the rich. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. It's universal healthcare. We want to create a public option. And I'm like, there's a lot of questions about that, but I'm not, as polarized on that issue. And they say, vote for us and we will create universal basic healthcare. Won't cover very expensive cancer treatments, but it'll cover your flus, your broken bones. And I'm going, okay, that sounds pretty good. And they go, and by the way, we're going to give children sex changes and we're going to abort babies at 9 months. I'll be like, I'm going to go vote for the other guy. And the other guy says, no health care for anyone, but at least babies will live. And I'll be like, I got to take what I can get, I guess.
Well, what you just said is what's called Obamacare.
Right.
That's exactly what happened under Obamacare. Then they were mandated to pay for these child sex changes. And I think that went into effect in 2015. And surprise, surprise, that's also a year this started skyrocketing. Yeah. Now, it's not just Obamacare. That's the year that Bruce Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner.
Yep.
And I believe it's the year I Am Jazz became a reality show. That might have started earlier, but that's helped to popularize this.
It's been Jazz. How long has it been on TV? It's like
maybe it's longer than that.
Maybe 9 or 10 years almost.
So
there have been breaks
around there.
2015.
But
there you go.
Oh, okay.
2015 is a
8. Okay. But
critical year in all of this.
My statement is very simply when it comes to liberals. Look, man, I would vote for like a moderate. I would prefer someone who's moderate for me. I can understand the arguments coming from conservatives. We have sane, rational, logical arguments. I often cite the conversation I had with Glenn Beck on abortion that was, I thought, wonderful and ended with a handshake, smiles, and we'll learn to live together and try and find the best way to build a great America. And I'm like, this is fantastic. And it was friendly and it was great, and I have tremendous respect for him. And then we have these people on the show and these leftists who will say things like, I'm for forced abortion, like nonsensical. Matt Binder said that I don't think trans people exist. And I said, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
I was like, what do you, I absolutely think trans people exist. What does that mean? What are you saying? And he's like, you think they don't exist? And I'm like, you're just saying words. That doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing.
It means literally nothing to me. I have trans friends. I think trans people exist. I want them to have civil rights. I want them to be protected. I just think we're talking about kids here. And there's a different question. So if my option is that or a conservative guy, at least the conservative guy makes sense.
Well, and this has happened on the show where I've had this conversation with left-wing guests, and I have explained that I do not use the made-up pronouns. I call somebody reality-based pronouns based on what they are, and they were saying, wait, so like you don't think trans people exist? Conservatives don't think trans people exist? No, I recognize that there are human beings who exist who identify as the opposite sex. I'm saying that doesn't actually make them the opposite sex. What is this slogan? You're debating their right to exist. What? No, I can't stop them from existing with my words. I can only accurately identify what they are and say I'm not willing to lie.
They say this because it silences conversation.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Because it shuts people up. It's the same reason they say kids are going to kill themselves if you don't let them transition. Mm-hmm. But here's the deal. It's a label, right? Now, an adult can take on whatever label they want. But the way we should be framing this, especially with kids, is there are children with gender dysphoria. Or I would prefer the word sex dysphoria, but whatever.
Right.
There are children who are struggling. Yeah. These are children in distress. Half of them are on the autism spectrum. Mm-hmm. All these kids have some other mental health comorbidity going on. They need to be screened for trauma and abuse because that's very common. A lot of these girls, and some of the boys too, have been sexually abused. Mm-hmm. Some of these kids have come up to me and told me stories. There's always something else going on. And I don't want anyone to believe me. I want everyone to go onto Google right now and look up a story by Jamie Reed, an article published by Jamie Reed in the Free Press. She worked at the Washington University Transgender Clinic, connected to St. Louis Children's Hospital. She describes herself as a queer woman who's married to a trans man, and she's politically left of Bernie Sanders. I didn't know that was possible. But she filed an affidavit with the Attorney General of Missouri, and she wrote this devastating expose where she confirms everything that people like myself have been saying.
I just want to point something out. So recently we got news that Starbucks was taking down the Pride decorations. This came from the Starbucks Workers Union. And I posted about it, and I had a bunch of leftists tell me that I'm wrong, that I was hoaxed, that the right is pushing fake news. And my response was, how did it come to be that the quote-unquote left would side with the corporation's spokesperson over their workers' union?
It's wild. It's probably something tribal, like they just had an issue with you.
Literally makes no sense.
It's probably it's
no,
personal.
No. It's because the idea that they would lose a culture war battle is more important than the fact. And I'm like, the thing, me siding with the workers' union is on brand, right? I'm not a big fan of unions, but of course we often side on the more populist side of things. The left tends to side on the corporatist side of things. Mm-hmm. Yet they're supposed to be the ones that are for the workers. Yeah. Clearly just makes no sense.
Yeah, they're the anti-fascists, they'll tell you. They're not the ones that are pushing the lucrative merger of a state and all of the corporations.
For the record on this Starbucks thing, workers union said Starbucks is pulling trans stuff. Starbucks corporate said, no, we're not. And then there's video of specific stores removing
There's
the stuff.
videos of employees complaining that they're being forced to take down pride decorations.
But they're not saying it's by corporate necessarily.
Yes.
It's by middle management. Oh, they're saying corporate sent an issue?
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone gets that specific. They're saying, I was told I had to take these things down.
So it might just be select micromanagement.
The workers union said that across the country, numerous stores have been instructed to remove their
and then
stuff.
corporate denied it.
And then corporate denied there is no policy to take these things down.
Cool.
I don't believe the corporate spokesperson. Like when Deepwater Horizon happened and the BP's like, we're sorry. I'm like, yeah, you guys are full of it, right? I don't believe it. When Fukushima happened and the Japanese, government, they're saying like, everything's under control. I'm like, no, you're lying, right? What makes more sense? A bunch of workers were told to do a thing. They filmed videos about it. They said it's happening, probably happening. But now you have the left on the side of the massive multinational corporation saying, no, they never said that. They're keeping it up. It's like, okay, whatever, dude. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.